The first time her Simu and Duan Xu met, it was a life-and-death test with hidden motives on both sides. At dawn in Liangzhou City, the streets were dim under the first light of morning. Corpses lay everywhere, and in the middle of that nightmare stood a blood-soaked young woman, calm and steady, holding a severed head in her hand as if the scene around her were nothing out of the ordinary. When Duan Xu, commander of the Tabai army, rode into the city, his eyes locked on her at once. Anyone would have remembered such a sight forever. It was horrifying enough to haunt a person's dreams, yet this was the first meeting between the male and female leads. By then, Liangzhou had already been reduced to a living hell. Her Simu was not there by accident. She was busy feeding herself, though not in the ordinary sense. She was the Ghost King, and making deals with the dying was simply part of her daily life. She had possessed the body of a young girl and had just finished her business, the result of that work still in her hand, when Duan Xu arrived with his troops. What a coincidence! Seated high on horseback, Duan Xu swept his gaze over the ruined city, then stopped when he saw the blood-covered girl standing in the middle of the street. In a place like that, any normal person would have been scared out of their mind. But she was absurdly calm, as if she were strolling through her own back garden. Her Simu was no fool either. At a glance, she recognized the sword hanging at Duan Xu's waist. It was the Broken Delusion sword, and, to her surprise, it was something connected to one of her own. Yet the man carrying it was nothing more than a mortal general with not a trace of spiritual power. How could someone like him wield such a weapon? There had to be something strange about him. So they watched each other, measured each other, and plotted in silence. Then the performance began. Her Simu bit her tongue to force out tears, staggered toward Duan Xu's horse, and cried so pitifully it would have broken anyone's heart. She wailed that before the enemy retreated, they had slaughtered the entire city, and asked if the general had come to save them. Duan Xu dismounted to comfort the survivors. Her Simu seized the chance and reached for his sleeve. The soldiers at his side instantly drew their blades, but Duan Xu stopped them with a single look. Then he pulled a handkerchief from his robes, bent down, and handed it to her. Wipe the blood off. It was such a gentle gesture. But when her Simu took the handkerchief, she did something else entirely. She brushed her fingers across Duan Xu's hand. It was not flirting. She was testing him. She needed to know whether this general possessed any spiritual power at all. The result shocked her. He was completely clean, truly just an ordinary man. Then, before anything more could happen, the body her Simu had possessed gave out. It collapsed on the spot. Her soul drifted free and floated in the air as she watched Duan Xu instruct his deputy to look after the girl carefully. He even made a point of telling them to treat her well. Just like that, her false identity passed without suspicion. And that handkerchief became the first token exchanged between them. After she recovered, her Simu did not stay idle. Using that girl's identity, she continued moving through Liangzhou City, accompanied by her sworn younger brother, Xue Chening. As for Duan Xu, he was careful to an almost terrifying degree. The next time he deliberately crossed paths with her Simu, the word testing might as well have been written all over his face. He wore a veiled hat, no official uniform, and brought no attendants, clearly trying not to be recognized. But her Simu saw through him at once. Sweet as honey, she praised his famous name and heroic bearing and said with a smile that he must be traveling incognito. Duan Xu must have been thinking that this girl's eyes were far too sharp. When he asked her name, she could not answer immediately, so he took the initiative and introduced himself first. My name is Duan Xu. Even now, that line still gives people chills. For a general to reveal his courtesy name to a common girl, how could that be anything other than another test? Her Simu immediately acted pitiful again, saying that she and her younger brother had no home and nowhere to go. Duan Xu smoothly arranged for her to stay in the house beside his own residence. It was a brilliant move. Keeping her close made her easier to observe. Not long after, Duan Xu discovered that her Simu possessed a very unusual ability. She could predict the weather with remarkable precision. In wartime, that kind of talent could change everything. It could decide when to set fires, when to lay ambushes, when to move troops, even the outcome of an entire campaign. So Duan Xu stopped circling around the matter and said it plainly. He had heard that he had extraordinary skill and could foresee the weather. Then he invited her to serve as a weather diviner for the army, essentially a strategist-level advisor. Her Mu gave him an exact forecast. On a certain night there would be a fierce east wind, with snow drifting through the darkness. Duan Xu used that information to carry out his military plan to burn the enemy's stronghold. It worked perfectly. The success shook Duan Xu deeply, but even while using her, he never let go of his suspicions. When her Mu developed a fever, she herself could not feel it. When she drank medicine, she could not taste its bitterness. Duan Xu confronted her directly and asked whether her lack of sensation was a problem. Her Mu answered with unusual honesty. She admitted that she was one of those strange beings who had lost all sense perception. Their conversations were like blades clashing in the dark. Neither of them broke the thin paper window between them, but both knew perfectly well that behind that single layer there were countless more. Each understood that the other was hiding an enormous secret, and neither was willing to reveal their own first. The moment that truly shattered that fragile barrier came on the battlefield. Duan Xu slipped alone into the enemy camp to assassinate the opposing commander. Her Mu was uneasy and followed him. Duan Xu was soon surrounded, his life hanging by a thread. At that moment, her Mu made a decision. She revealed her true form as the Ghost King and devoured every enemy before them. The scene was beyond terrifying. Countless ghostly shadows poured out from her body and swept across the battlefield. The enemy soldiers did not even have time to scream before they were swallowed whole. Duan Xu's subordinates were so frightened their legs nearly gave out. And Duan Xu? He calmly pulled out a handkerchief and offered it to her. His voice was as steady as if he were inviting someone to tea. "Wipe the blood off your face, Miss Ghost." Then he formally introduced himself and asked for her identity. Her Mu did not hide it anymore. She said it openly and without hesitation. "I am the king of 10,000 ghosts." That scene is unforgettable every time. Most people, upon discovering that the person at their side was the Ghost King, would either faint in terror or draw their sword on the spot. But Duan Xu did neither. He was not afraid.
He did not bow.
He did not panic. Instead, he handed her a handkerchief again, perfectly echoing their first meeting. A mortal general facing the king of 10,000 ghosts stood before her almost as an equal, calling her Miss Ghost, with a tone that mixed teasing and acceptance. It makes one wonder what Duan Xu must have gone through to gain such composure. But what truly bound her Mu and Duan Xu together was a secret 300 years in the making. During the battle at Guanha, when her Mu's soul drew close to Duan Xu, the rhythm pearl left to her by her aunt began to tremble violently in his presence. In that instant, she understood. Duan Xu was the person the pearl had been waiting for all those centuries, the only mortal capable of sharing her lost senses. That realization meant everything. For 300 years, her Mu had tasted nothing, smelled no flowers, felt no warmth, touched no softness. She was the king of 10,000 ghosts, powerful enough to inspire terror, yet also the loneliest and emptiest being of all. And this utterly ordinary mortal general, a man with no spiritual power at all, turned out to be the key to restoring her ability to feel the world. Did her Mu's heart begin to move? At first, it was not because of love. It was because of the possibility of regaining that long-lost sensation of being alive. Yet she did not immediately bring up the matter of shared senses. Instead, she proposed a different bargain. She said she could help him fulfill one wish, and in return, one day in the future, she would devour his soul. Duan Xu refused. What he said in reply still leaves people stunned. "I never make wishes. Fate is changeable enough to force all things to kneel, but I will not kneel with them." Only someone who had lived through immense darkness could speak that way. He did not want a simple bargain. He wanted equality. He wanted the right to choose. Even before the Ghost King, he would not give up his dignity. That answer shook her Mu. In 300 years, she had seen countless people bow before her, flatter her, beg her, fear her. But Duan Xu was the one and only mortal who dared tell her no. And that is why they could walk toward each other. Duan Xu, as her Si Mu once described him, had lived like an object all his life, hammered, mended, and pieced together as he grew. He carried a heavy past. He had killed many people. His hands were stained with blood. Yet the deepest wish in his heart was never slaughter. It was to bring light back into the world. The pain and collapse that came after taking lives, he only ever showed in front of her Si Mu. She was the only one who saw through every disguise he wore. And for her Si Mu, Duan Xu was the only person who could let her feel the world again. He was the only one who stayed calm after learning she was the Ghost King. He was the only one who did not treat her as a god, a monster, or a tool, but as a person. They began with suspicion. They drew closer in constant games and quiet calculations. And once the truth was exposed, they only became closer. This was never the sweet, romantic first meeting of an ordinary love story. It was the redemption of two lonely souls. One wanted to feel the world again. The other wanted to find someone who could accept every part of who he was. In each other, they found the one thing they had always longed for most. And that handkerchief from the beginning. Was it tenderness, or was it a test? Now the answer is clear. It was tenderness, and it was a test. It was calculation, and it was the first stirring of emotion. When two people this clever meet, every approach is bound to carry suspicion, and every moment of gentleness is bound to hide a purpose. But because they are so clever, they understand better than anyone how rare it is in this world to meet someone who can truly see through you. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support really